The young geologist Isherwood is so absorbed in his work that he doesn't even notice his phone, which is ringing off the hook with calls from his mother. After filling out his journal, the guy packs what he needs and heads to the southern slope of the island in search of interesting rocks. But this time, the trip doesn't go smoothly. While examining some stones, the guy is attacked by a rattlesnake. Ish fails to call for help. The phone slips from his hands and gets lost between the rocks. He tries to extract the venom himself, but it turns out to be too toxic. He starts feeling worse and barely manages to crawl back home before collapsing onto his bed. Ish spends 3 weeks delirious. His arm swells up and everything blurs before his eyes. One day, he hears someone enter his house, but no one comes to his aid. They decide the geologist is sick too. After 3 weeks, weak with thirst, Ish finally gets up. Regaining his senses, he decides to head into town to restock supplies and meet his parents, still unaware of what awaits him there. The first unpleasant surprise for Nash is a body lying in the supermarket parking lot. Upon inspecting it, he begins to realize that there are no living people around, and on an electronic billboard, he sees a message stating that the government has been dissolved and all survivors should hide from an unknown disease. Arriving at his parents' house, Nash sees that disaster struck there too. He finds an abandoned breakfast in the kitchen, fruits darkened with age, and empty rooms. Fighting fear, he approaches the bedroom door, already sensing an unpleasant smell as he enters. Nash's father fell victim to the epidemic. His body lies in bed, covered in horrible blotches. His elderly mother, unable to reach her son, couldn't bear her grief. She locked herself in the bathroom and took every pill in the house. Nash digs a grave right in the yard. He carries his parents there in his arms and, unafraid of infection, kisses them goodbye, sobbing over the fact that he has been left completely alone. Now Nash must start a new life. He explores the city where thousands of bodies lie and tries to understand why he was the one who survived. Visiting the nearest supermarket, Nash takes a rifle and some ammo, determined to search for other survivors. He wants to believe that there are still some lucky ones like him in the city and that together they can start over. At some point, Nash's nerves break down, but his will to live proves stronger and he continues on his path. Having found no one in the city, the geologist decides to visit Las Vegas. The bright, sparkling city now lies empty and the casino crowds have vanished. Nash decides to take advantage of this to unwind a bit. He finds a luxurious jacuzzi and tries to relax and rest before continuing his journey. After a hot bath, he decides to have a few drinks. Confident that he is alone, Nash doesn't bother with clothes and heads to the bar completely naked. But there, an unexpected encounter awaits him. A couple of survivors, Milton and Anne. The couple doesn't know why they survived. They both lost loved ones in the hotel and now try to support each other. Milton shows Ish recordings of news broadcasts he captured during the epidemic. He explains that the end of the world came because of the government. No one took measures to protect the people in time, and by the time quarantine was declared, it was already too late. After talking with his new acquaintances, Ish sinks even deeper into depression. He spends the night right on the floor by the elevator, trying to process the information Milton shared. In the morning, Ish barely finds Milton and Anne. Full of energy, Ish imagines the three of them setting out to find other survivors and building a large community. But the couple has other plans. Milton prepares a delicious breakfast for everyone, and as a friendly atmosphere settles over the table, he tells Ish what they plan to do next. Milton and Anne intend to spend a few weeks in the hotel, eating delicious food, drinking expensive liquor, and enjoying each other's company. But once the supplies run out, the friends plan to follow their loved ones into death. Ish doesn't like this idea. He tries to talk Anne out of it, but when she refuses, he leaves the hotel. Already out on the street, he hears 2 gunshots and realizes that Milton and Anne have carried out their plan and are gone. Ish's nerves finally give out. The guy speeds up the car again, hoping it will crash and end his suffering, but suddenly a dog appears in front of the vehicle, and Ish barely manages to slam on the brakes. Lucky, that's what Ish names the dog he decides to keep. Together, the pair heads to the city library to gather books that will help them survive in a world without people. With the books and his new friend, Ish returns to his parents' house. It's hard for him to accept that there are no people left, but he understands he has only one option: to learn to live all over again. Thus passes the first year of lonely life. Ish gets used to it, but sometimes he feels so miserable that he falls into despair. But one day, everything changes. Lucky notices smoke rising above a house a couple of kilometers away. Without wasting time, Ish and Lucky rush toward the alive house. There, they are met by a tough young woman, Emma, who had taken over the house to rest for a while. At first, Emma treats the guests with caution, but after making sure they pose no threat, she invites Ish and Lucky inside. Emma is a little older than Ish, but the age difference doesn't stop them from finding common ground. They share stories of how they lost their loved ones during the epidemic and talk about their plans for the future. The pair spends the night in Emma's house, but in the morning, Ish convinces her to come with him. After inspecting the property, Emma admits that she likes the house and is willing to stay. The only thing that scares Emma is the rodents. She discovers spoiled food supplies, and the couple decides to head to the supermarket to gather everything they might need. From that day on, Ish and Emma start over. Now they are not just surviving, they are trying to make their life better. They learn hunting and fishing, gather mushrooms, and grow vegetables. Ish even allows Emma to trim his beard so he can look better despite the apocalypse. In addition, Ish decides to build a chicken coop to attract the hungry chickens that were left at his neighbors' farms, thinking about why they were the ones who survived. Emma suggests that their task is to give the earth new inhabitants. The couple decides not to delay this purpose. Passion flares between them, and they give in to it. After their intimacy, Emma and Ish realize they will stay here together forever. And for that, they must take care of electricity, food, heating, and other comforts of civilization. Ish begins by searching for gasoline. He goes around the neighboring houses, siphoning fuel into canisters to build a solid reserve. The rest of the time, Ish works on building a large solar panel that could power the house. But during the work, Ish falls from the roof and injures his leg. Emma takes care of her friend, but fears she won't be able to cope. She suggests that they go looking for other survivors. Emma admits that she feels lonely and bored here and realizes that she and Ish are not truly in love. They are together only because there is no one else. At night, Emma looks through old photos of her family and cries, trying to hide her sorrow from Ish. Moreover, Emma has other news for Ish. She shows him her rounded belly and tells him she is expecting a child. The news terrifies Ish because there are no doctors or hospitals around, but he understands there's no turning back. He will have to take care of Emma himself. Now Ish constantly studies medical books and gathers everything necessary for childbirth and childcare across the city. Life begins to improve, and Emma promises they will overcome all difficulties. In the second half of her pregnancy, Emma admits to Ish that she can no longer do without meat. The woman's appetite grows, and Ish has to find a way to solve this problem. It turns out to be a difficult task, but Ish succeeds. He finds a herd of cattle and captures one of the cows. To butcher the animal, the guy once again has to turn to his textbooks. Following the guidance of the books, Ish extracts the heart from his catch and proudly presents it to Emma. The house now has a stock of dried meat, which immediately attracts Lucky. To store it properly, they need a refrigerator, and just at that time, Ish finishes building the solar panel capable of handling heavy loads. But a new problem arises, one that even a fridge can't solve. Rats appear in the house. Emma warns Ish that they are in serious trouble. Hungry rats pose a real threat, and she turns out to be right. After a few days, the rodents surround the house, drawn by the scent of beef. Ish tries to distract the pests, but nothing works. Thousands of rats attempt to break into the house to get to the food. The couple uses every method they can think of to get rid of the uninvited guests, but it all proves useless. The rats attack Lucky, and Ish, risking his life, saves the dog, letting 100 aggressive rodents into the house. The couple hides in a room to tend to the dog and wait for morning. Ish hopes for a miracle, praying that they can somehow survive. At the same time, he fears the upcoming birth. What if Emma can't deliver the baby without medical help? But Emma confesses that she has experience. In her past life, she had 2 daughters, both taken from her by the epidemic. The universe hears Ish's pleas, and the miracle happens. Hungry stray cats appear on the streets and wipe out all the rats. Ish takes this as a good omen, and at that very moment, their child decides it's time to be born. Emma endures a difficult labor for several hours, but it becomes clear that Ish was right again. The baby won't be born without assistance. He has to recall everything he learned from the obstetric books and physically turn the baby during labor. A little girl is born, and the young parents name her Heather after Ish's mother. Holding his daughter in his arms, Ish feels overwhelming happiness and confesses his love to Emma. The little girl grows up, and the couple raises her in harmony with nature and love. Still, Emma misses human contact, and secretly from her husband, she writes their address in the center of the city, inviting any other survivors who might still be out there. The 6th year after the epidemic, having gathered fresh apples for his family, Ish drives home along a forest road. On his way, he encounters a wounded animal, and stepping out of the car to ease its suffering, he notices a girl in the forest thicket. He tries to catch up with her, but the child is wild and very frightened. Despite this, Ish manages to persuade the stranger to come with him. The girl climbs into the trailer, hides under a tarp, and behaves strangely, but at least she is safe. By this time, Ish's house is no longer empty. Besides Emma and their daughter Heather, they now have a son, Alex, and they have been joined by another surviving couple, Jorge and Marin. It is Marin who takes the girl under her care. She tries not to scare her, shows her that there is no danger in the house, and admits that she too had once been unhappy. While Marin looks after the girl, Ish and Jorge head into the forest to find out if her family is still out there. But what the men discover fills them with horror. It becomes clear that the girl had lived in terrible conditions and had suffered greatly. This is confirmed by a note Marin finds among the girl's belongings. The note reveals that the girl's name is Evie, and for several years she had been the victim of her father, who had lost his sanity. The note was written by Evie's mother. Sensing her end was near, she had helped her daughter escape. Ish and Emma have another child, a boy named Joey. He becomes Ish's pride and joy, and the man spends countless hours at the baby's crib, telling him about their strange new world. Throughout Joey's first year, Ish devotes all his time to his son, believing that their children will one day rebuild life on Earth. A year later, the warning tripwires alert them that intruders have breached their territory. Armed, Ish, Emma, and Jorge rush into the forest and discover a group of nomads. Jorge suspects that this might be Evie's family, come to reclaim her, but he is wrong. Ezra, Molly, and Jean don't know the girl. They came after seeing the address written in the city center. The trio is raising a son, Rafe, and this melts Ish's heart. Seeing the child, he lowers his weapon and allows the visitors inside. Molly explains that she had been a surgeon in Seattle, but after the epidemic, she was left alone. Meeting Jean and Ezra, she joined them, and now they live as a family, raising their young son. The family asks to be allowed to stay, but Ish doesn't like the idea. Emma, however, speaks up for the newcomers. She tells them that there is an empty house nearby where they can settle. That evening, Emma and Ish have a small argument over the guests, but Ish ultimately agrees to give them a chance. The very next day, the newcomers have an opportunity to prove themselves. Ish organizes an expedition into the city to find remaining canned goods and other useful supplies. Ish reminds everyone of the rules, and the group heads out. But while Ezra, Ish, and Jean search for food, Molly is the first to break the leader's order. She separates from the others and sneaks into a hospital. There, she barely escapes becoming prey to a feral dog, managing to defend herself and drive the predator away. Afterward, Molly breaks into a locked pharmacy cabinet and gets what she came for: medicine and antibiotics that will last them for years. In honor of the successful trip, everyone gathers around a campfire in the evening and has a wonderful time. Seeing this, Emma finally feels truly happy. She has a family, and there are people around her she can talk to. Marin's mood also changes. She had been cold to Jorge for years, but after everything he has done for her, she realizes he deserves her warmth. Only Jean is unhappy. She learns she is pregnant and tries to terminate the pregnancy, not wanting to bring a new life into this cruel world. But Molly comforts her friend and promises that together they can overcome any hardships. Jorge gifts Ish a hammer, a symbol of his strength and leadership. Ish is grateful to his friend that they are all alive and can make plans for the future. 9 months later, new children are born into the commune. Daughters are born to John and Ezra and to Jorge and Marin. To celebrate the occasion, Ish roasts Cuban cigars for Jorge so he can toast his unexpected fatherhood. The 14th year after the epidemic, the commune gathers at the festive table to celebrate Heather's birthday, the first child born after the apocalypse. Only old Lucky doesn't join the festivities. He prefers to stay inside the house. Evie also keeps her distance. Despite all the years that have passed, the girl still remains silent and avoids interacting with others. Storm clouds gather over the city, and to avoid being bored at home, Ish takes Joey to the library. The man enjoys listening to his son's wise musings and watching him study different sciences. But by evening, they must return. The rain turns into a real hurricane, and Ish needs to ensure everyone's safety. The clan members are all accounted for, but Lucky disappears from the house. Ish goes outside, not caring about the rain, but he is too late to save his best friend. A fallen tree claims the dog's life. This loss hits Ish hard, but a few days later, an even greater blow awaits him. Checking on Joey and Evie playing in the park, he witnesses a giant, starving cougar attack the children. Sacrificing himself, Ish stands between the predator and the kids, and a brutal battle begins, one he has little chance of winning. But witnessing this, Evie speaks for the first time in years, crying out for help. Molly draws on her old training. She provides Ish with first aid, stitches his wounds, and administers necessary medications, but she doesn't know if they can save their leader. Driven by the need for revenge, Emma grabs a loaded rifle and heads into the forest to hunt down the beast. That night, Ish regains consciousness, and Molly confesses the truth. She had lied. She wasn't a surgeon and had actually dropped out during her first year of medical school. Despite everything, Molly manages to save Ish, and within a couple of weeks, he returns to normal life. The 17th year after the epidemic. Life moves on, and the children grow up. Heather and Rafe, who were raised together, begin spending more and more time alone. They explore the city, learn how people used to live, and realize they want to see the world beyond their island. Heather asks her mother to talk to Ish, but the man doesn't like his daughter's idea. He admits he doesn't want to let her go. Emma, however, manages to persuade him, and a few days later, Ish helps his daughter prepare for her long journey. To the sorrow of parting is added a new problem. A drought deprives the settlers of water. Ish gathers a team, and they drive to the dam where they discover a dry reservoir, which could become a real catastrophe for them. While scouting the area, Joey spots some buses approaching, and he gets excited, hoping to meet new groups of people. But Ish doesn't share his son's excitement. He orders everyone to take their positions and rushes his family back to their territory. Unfortunately, the nomads spot Ish's group and begin following their fresh tracks. Charlie, the leader of the new group, offers Ish a canteen of water as a peace gesture. He explains that they have been traveling for several years and that they have something useful to offer. Pulling back a tarp, Charlie reveals a drilling rig capable of creating a well and providing fresh water. In exchange, he asks to stay temporarily in Ish's settlement and later share some gasoline, which is running low. Ish agrees to Charlie's terms, even though he dislikes and distrusts the newcomers. He spends a lot of time with Charlie to keep a close eye on him, but doesn't notice that the guest is subtly undermining his authority, trying to seize control. Meanwhile, Ish's sons quickly fall under Charlie's charm. They see him as strong and cool, far more impressive than their own father. Ish doesn't like it at all, nor does he like how Charlie keeps watching Evie. Tensions rise, leading to arguments between Ish and his sons, and Emma tries to calm her husband down, saying he's just jealous and afraid of looking less authoritative compared to Charlie. The drilling work progresses, and it seems that soon the ordeal will be over. Ish hopes that once the water starts flowing, Charlie will leave, but for now, unable to contain himself, he wanders off into the forest to cool down. Ironically, it is during this moment that Ish gets lost in the woods for the first time. Night falls, and still Ish does not return home. Taking advantage of Ish's absence, Charlie tries to seduce Jean, but the woman rebuffs his advances, reminding him that she already has a family. Ish finally returns home long after midnight, terrifying Emma, who feared the worst. Even back home, Ish feels no peace. His instincts tell him that something terrible is about to happen. The next day, the drilling rig finally finds water. The settlers rejoice at their salvation, and Ish feels relieved that Charlie will now leave. But Charlie has other plans. Slapping Ish on the shoulder, he hints that he's not going anywhere. That evening, the settlers gather in the yard to celebrate their survival. Watching everyone laugh and celebrate, blind to the threat Charlie poses, Ish can no longer stand it and retreats into the house. But sleep does not come. Long after the others have dispersed, Ish remains on the balcony, lost in troubled thoughts. The night's silence is shattered by the sounds of a struggle and a woman's scream. Ish tries to pinpoint the source, but everything becomes clear when he sees Charlie emerge from Evie's house, fastening his pants. Silas, Charlie's friend, had been standing guard at the door, making sure no one interrupted his boss. Confident in his impunity, Charlie strolls back to his trailer. Even the knowledge that his own wife saw everything does not scare him. Together with his accomplice, Silas, Charlie plans to seize the settlement and get rid of Ish. They intend to carry out their plan at dawn. At the same time, Ish brings Evie to Molly so she can receive help. He also gathers the others to tell them everything and make a decision. The man fears that Evie might not be Charlie's only victim, and they must act. Emma insists that there is only one way to deal with Charlie and keep everyone safe. They must eliminate him. Otherwise, the criminal could return at any time and attack when they least expect it. Most people dislike the idea, but after weighing all the arguments, the settlers realize that if they don't act, Charlie will take their children's lives and destroy their home. The majority votes yes, and armed with the hammer Jorge once gave him, Ish heads toward Charlie's trailer. Despite the decision, Ish first tries to resolve things peacefully. He asks his rival to leave, but the conversation quickly falls apart. Charlie openly threatens that he will destroy Ish and take over the settlement. At that moment, Ish's friends emerge from their hiding spots, and Charlie realizes he has no chance of carrying out his plan. He surrenders, and Ish, unable to contain his anger, unleashes all his fury on him. The rest of the night, Ish spends trying to wash the blood off his hands and clothes, but Emma supports her husband again, assuring him that they did the right thing. At dawn, Ish gathers Charlie's followers and informs them that their leader is no more. Now they have a choice: stay and obey his rules, or leave and never return to these lands. The first to hear the news is Charlie's wife, but she shows no sadness at all. The others also breathe a sigh of relief and decide to stay, while only Silas chooses to leave, feeling betrayed by his friends and Charlie's fate. However, Silas's courage doesn't last long. After a few minutes, he returns and begs to be accepted back, but Ish refuses, reminding him that he stood guard while Charlie harmed Evie. Peace and calm return to the settlement once more. While playing with his friends near the playground, Joey runs off into the woods and climbs a tall tree to get a better view of the city. The boy dreams of one day seeing the entire world and making it a better place. A few weeks later, Joey proudly shows the settlers his invention, a flying machine that doesn't require gasoline. Seeing this, Ish and Emma feel a deep pride in their son and realize that nature had preserved them for a reason. But the happiness doesn't last long. That very evening, Joey falls ill. At first it seems like a simple cold, but soon more people get sick and the settlers realize a new unknown virus has reached them. Molly tries to help the sick, but the medicines are once again powerless. Other women who have so far managed to avoid infection join her efforts. All night, Ish sits by his son's bedside, fighting to lower his fever. He feels as if Charlie's ghost is nearby, demanding payment for the life Ish once took. Days pass, Joey remains bedridden, and when Heather returns to the settlement, she stays by her brother's side, unafraid of falling ill. But she comes back alone. Rafe didn't survive the journey, leaving Heather to return without him. In search of salvation, Ish heads to the abandoned part of the city. He sneaks into the largest hospital, gathers whatever medicine he can find, and stops by a tiny chapel to pray and beg God to save his son. The 20th year after the epidemic, Jean asks Heather to tell them about her journey and how Rafe died. The pair had traveled through many cities, learning about how people lived before the epidemic. But then tragedy struck. While resting on the coast, they encountered a wild man who killed Rafe to steal their food. But Heather does not know that the wild man was Silas, the very one who had once been banished from the community. On her way home, Heather's car broke down, and she had to walk the rest of the way on foot. Still, she believes that all along the way, the spirit of her fiancé, Rafe, was with her. Joey doesn't get any better. He already knows himself that his time is running out and that soon he will be gone. When Ish returns home, Heather hopes he has brought medicine. But instead, Ish prepares to give his son a blood transfusion, hoping to pass on his immunity. Heather begs her father to stop and not scare the boy, but grief has clouded Ish's judgment. The same has happened to Jean, having lost Rafe, and with her daughter also sick, she is barely holding on. Ish carries Joey to the hospital ward and pleads with Molly to save the boy, but there is nothing she can do. Her only advice is to try an ice bath to bring down his fever. Some patients manage to recover. One of them is Corey. While visiting his friends, he talks with Heather and realizes from her story that the man who killed Rafe was Silas. Unfortunately, Joey does not improve, despite all of Molly's, Ish's, and Emma's efforts. The boy speaks to his father one last time, then closes his eyes and passes away. The settlers bury those who didn't survive the virus. Among them are Joey and Jean and Ezra's daughter. But Ish does not stay for the funeral. He drives to the city to erase the address they had written there and spends time in the library, the place where his son had loved to be. Emma finds her husband in the library. She begs him not to lose faith despite the grief they have endured. She notices Ish preparing to set the library on fire, but she reminds him that they have other children and that they must preserve history for them. For the sake of his wife, his children, and his friends, Ish pulls himself together and finds the strength to go on living. The 21st year after the epidemic. A year after Joey's death, Ish finally finds the courage to tidy up his son's room. On the boy's desk, he finds blueprints for new inventions Joey never got to build. One of them is a radio station capable of picking up signals from all over the world. Ish spends several days studying his son's notebooks. He notices that on every page, Joey had written the same phrase, "We need this." The boy had dreamed that one day they would find other colonies and expand their world. Ish shows the blueprints to his friends and confesses that he is ready to find other survivors and welcome them. Jorge and Ezra support their leader, and together the men begin building a satellite system. Addix and Marin also help in constructing the station. Marin admits that she holds great hope for the arrival of new people. Finally, the system is ready, and Ish starts sending signals to different parts of the world. His voice reaches distant countries, but no matter how hard he tries, no replies come. Seeing how exhausted her husband is, Emma suggests taking a break and playing baseball. The group uses whatever materials they can find to fashion makeshift uniforms, and instead of a ball, they use a lemon, but the game becomes a warm greeting from the old world, allowing them to forget their struggles for a while. During the game, Heather notices the elders frequently calling out certain numbers. She remembers that during her travels with Rafe, they had also seen number combinations, but hadn't understood their meaning. Hearing this, Ish suddenly realizes what his daughter is talking about. He rushes to the radio station and inputs the numbers she mentioned. Again and again, Ish repeats the message, stating his name and asking for a response. And after an hour, he finally receives a reply. Ish learns that he has contacted a commune where 77 people live. At first, everyone feels overwhelming joy, but then fear creeps in. What if history repeats itself as it did with Charlie? The deciding moment comes when the woman on the other end of the line speaks the very words written in Joey's journal, "We need this." 50 years after the epidemic. Stepping into the yard of his home, now surrounded by dozens of other houses, an elderly Ish passes the hammer once given to him by Jorge to Heather's eldest son. The men walk into the forest, where Ish imparts one last lesson to his grandson. People come and go, but the earth endures forever.